Good morning. It's Monday, September 9th, 2024, 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Scott and a second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 3 is discussion of possible action to approve claims dated September 9th, 2024 in the amount of $2,095,881.11.
I would move to approve.
A motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 4, we have a virtual update from Miranda Swafford, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Valley Workforce Development Board. I hope, Miranda, are you online with us this morning? Can I hear her? Miranda, are you out there? You see
Yes,
her?
I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Miranda. So, again, this is Miranda Swafford. She is the Executive Director of the Mississippi Valley Workforce Development Board, and I think you have a little presentation for us, correct, Miranda?
If I can get that thing connected.
Just a minute, we're having a little difficulty getting it up on the screen. It's coming, I think. Chrissy's working on it.
Okay, I think they were going to allow Tyler to share her screen on our end.
Okay.
So I also have Mandy Tripp and Tyler Lands with me, who will be presenting as well.
Yeah, just a moment here, Miranda. We're having just a little bit of difficulty. Chrissy's working on it. Always the technology.
I know they did a practice run on Friday to make sure
Yeah.
everything was
Yeah, I got an
gonna work
email
okay.
from Bill and everybody, so that we know it worked. That was Friday.
Yeah, over there, take over.
That's Miranda's reader.
Oh, yeah.
Tyler, did the share option come up for you? Just pop up.
I do not have the share option, no.
Yeah, if we could have Tyler have that privilege, would be great.
Yeah, we're trying to get, Chrissy's trying to get it to actually come up on our screen yet, Miranda. She's having a little trouble
Okay, well,
communicating.
something popped up on mine to share my screen, so I didn't know whether you guys had done that or what happened.
Jeez.
If you can move this down a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, we can maybe move to the, I don't know if it's an issue with the projector, because I think Chris was planning on using that as well. That's the way it always goes. This is like school, Katie, when you come in and you get a sit.
That's what he said, the front row is available. I'm like, that's all right.
Doesn't bother you, does it, Jim?
Jim's a front row kind of guy.
That's right.
Just get about me. We're supposed to be having some.
Because everything's always about you.
Yeah, that's what you keep saying.
I second that.
I think I got a subpoena for you this week.
Oh, gee, thanks.
I don't know if it
Just
would,
saw that today.
Move
could go
on.
to the EMA, but that's the
They're
projector
doing,
too.
I think they're using that as
Yeah,
well,
and,
so.
You're fine.
Well, while Chrissy works on that, should we just move on to item 6, which is with Brian? Are you ready, Brian? We could go on down and work on a couple of later items, and when she gets the monitor working. We're gonna do a couple things here, Miranda, just on hold till Chrissy gets the projector working. So item number 6 is.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, item number 6 is items with our county engineer, Brian Horowski. Brian, 6A is discussion of possible action to approve various utility permits.
Yes, good morning. We have one utility permit today. It's from Mid-American Energy Company of Des Moines, Iowa. They're requesting to relocate a fiber optic cable on 120th Street, and this is for our bridge replacement project just west of Western. It's project number LFM FU-9-7X-70. So,
I would move to approve.
I have a motion by Scott,
second.
second by Nathan. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Anything else, Brian?
Yes, wanted to give a project update. Our Moscow Road paving project, they're currently working on they're working on bridge approach spans. Every bridge that's out there is going to get a bridge approach to it. So I believe they have one bridge done. And then they're also working on resetting some pipe culverts, lining some pipe culverts in, and more of their subs get in and continue to get the work done. Our Vale Ave patching project, they got a little hung up a couple weeks ago, and the project is taking a little longer than what our contractor was anticipating. We're really hopeful that hopefully by the end of this week that project can be done and completed. And then our Charlie Ave Bridge, that is Iowa Bridge and Culvert, that began work last week. So I believe the majority of the bridge is ripped out. So that's moving forward nicely. So, and then our 120th Street Bridge, that Mid-American permit, that was one of the utilities needs relocated. There is unfortunately another one that's much larger. It's an AT&T fiber. We're still working through getting that thing relocated. So that's what I had for a project update. I did want to give a personnel update. We did receive another letter of resignation by one of our maintenance workers. So we will most likely in the coming weeks re-advertise for a highway maintenance worker again. So that's what I had for an update.
Hey, Brian, do you know the status of the levee project down on, were you at the last meetings, or I don't know where?
Yes,
they're at?
there was a meeting on Friday. Katie was there as well. It sounded like the major work was nearing completion. They're kind of, especially the the larger feature, I believe that's feature 1, the building up of the levee along Pettibone. They're to the point now where they're kind of having to fine grade it, figure out exactly where they're at for fill material and how much more they need, but it sounded like they were pretty close there. Then the feature 2 down in Louisa County, they were acting this week. They're hoping to have
Probably be done, yeah.
probably be done. So
they've got that special concrete on it and the hardening all pretty much done.
yes, I'm not 100%. There's quite a bit of little punch list items to do. I know that there's some pipes they got to fill, and there will be some material they have to remove to supply adequate drainage down there. But it sounds like that's all pretty minor items. So the major stuff is nearing completion by what they say. So, and our road is held up extremely well on Pettibone. It did. I mean, you can barely tell that they used it as a crossing. So.
And in the 57th up to Stewart.
Yes, that
looks in good shape.
That held together well too.
Good,
So
very good.
I think they were able to haul during good weather, and that's a big part of it. So
With that reservation, that was the 4th one, correct?
yes,
Have you replaced any yet?
we have one that will begin work tomorrow, and then we have an accepted offer from a second.
So you'll be 2 down?
Yes.
Yeah, I've driven that down Pettibone and across, and you can't, very little damage.
It's held up amazingly well, especially since the east side, they couldn't build it up very much because they had the railroads down there. So it's now a very good angle. You have trucks coming up and kind of coming down onto the pavement with all their weight, and it's really held up well. So I'm very surprised and pretty happy. So
Don't jinx us, right?
yeah.
They're probably pretty much done hauling just about then. huh?
Yeah, like I said, they're trying. It seemed like they were trying to figure out. Basically, they were working on getting their GPS dozer control up and running, and then they were going to start going down the levee and fine tooth grading it, and then they'll get a little bit better idea of how much more sand they need. But it was in the couple thousands of yards more sand if they need any. So I mean, in the grand scheme, that's not very much.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yep. Thank you.
You think we got it? Oh, there we go. Miranda? Andy?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah, we've got you on our screen now. And I don't know about sharing. I'll let, is she ready to go?
Yeah.
And Mandy?
Miranda Swafford should be presenter.
I think she wanted Mandy. Did you want Mandy to have screen share, Miranda?
Either Mandy or Tyler, yeah,
Either
preferably
Mandy or
Tyler.
Tyler prefer, sorry. Okay, she should have it now. Do we have somebody's screen? There we go.
Okay, are you ready for us to start, Jeff?
Yes, please.
Oh. All right, well, technology's great on a Monday morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, good morning, everyone. I am happy to be here to talk to you this morning about the Mississippi Valley Workforce Development Board. My name is Miranda Swafford, and I am the Executive Director. I'm Andy Tripp. I am our Compliance Officer. Sorry, that takes up my whole screen and I can't unmute. My name's Tyler. I am the Strategic Partnership Specialist with the board. Okay, there we go. All right, so our objectives today in the short time we have with you are to discuss the Iowa workforce system, who the board is, the chief elected officials' responsibilities, board membership, Iowa Work Centers, Customers and Services, our 23-24 Impact, and our special initiative, Skill Up Mississippi Valley. So currently in Iowa, there are 6 local workforce development boards, and we represent the gray area on the eastern side of the state, covering 8 counties, including Muscatine County. So who are we? We are a 501c3 nonprofit who receives Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act from the federal government to oversee and operate workforce development programs and services through the Iowa Work Centers in our 8-county local workforce area. Under the WIOA, the legislators to reduce the reliance on public assistance programs and put them on a path to self-sufficiency. This law also aims to provide a pipeline of qualified individuals to meet the needs of our local businesses. Chief elected officials under this federal legislation are also responsible to oversee the local workforce development board. So in Iowa, the chief elected officials are actually the county board of supervisors. So since our workforce area covers 8 counties, we have 1 representative from each of those county boards to serve on this governing body. Currently, the representative for Muscatine County is Danny Chick, and our Cleo is Jim Irwin from Clinton County, which means he is the chair of this committee. So the CEO's responsibilities are first to appoint members to the local workforce development board and designate the local grant recipient. The local grant recipient is really the entity that's responsible for monitoring and financial management of the funds that come into the workforce system, and currently the workforce board is serving in that capacity. The CEOs also set policies and assist in the development of the local plan. The CEOs conduct oversight and partnership with the board and also approve. Ultimately, the CEOs are the group responsible for any misuse of funds that come into the workforce area. And lastly, the CEOs participate in performance negotiations with the state of Iowa and the workforce board. So under the federal legislation, we have very specific membership requirements. We must maintain a political balance at all times. And 51% of our membership must be from business, 2 of which must represent small business. 20% of our membership is from labor, and then we have 1 individual each from higher education, economic development, adult education and literacy, Wagner-Pfizer, and vocation. So this is our current list of board members, and just to call out a couple of those that are representing Muscatine County, we have Kirby Phillips, who is currently our board chair. For Muscatine Power and Water, we have Carol Reynolds from Kent Corporation and Mandy Parchard from HNI Corp. So this kind of represents our current structure. Our full board meets on a quarterly basis, and the CEOs meet shortly after that meeting to ratify any decisions that they're required to of the full board, but most of the work is done in committee. We have 6 committees that meet, most of them meet on a monthly basis. We have the executive, the finance, operations, business, youth, and disability access. Under the federal legislation, the board has lots of responsibilities. I'm just going to touch on a couple of them right now due to the limited time we have, but in a nutshell, the board is really supposed to analyze labor market information and use that data to design the workforce programs in our communities to meet our local needs. This ensures that we're using the publicly invested dollars to the maximum possibilities. Another large responsibility of the board is to procure service providers that provide the programs and services through the Iowa Work Centers on the behalf of the board. So the board and the board staff do not provide direct services to businesses or job seekers. That is done through this contracted entity that we must procure every 4 years. Responsible to coordinate with all of the workforce partners in our workforce area to try to reduce duplication of services and maximize the resources available. We participate in the development of career pathways and convene sector partnerships and ensure employers have a voice at the table. And then lastly, we leverage our resources and continuously evaluate and monitor our programs and services. So currently we have 2 Iowa Work Centers, one in Davenport and one in Burlington. These are the main centers that we provide services through, but we do frequently meet individuals in the other counties that we serve in the communities wherever is convenient for them. And the myth we are trying to break is that Iowa Works is not the unemployment office, and Tyler's going to talk to you a little bit more about some of those programs and services available.
Okay, so if Iowa Works is not the unemployment office, what do they do? So they provide a variety of programs and services. We have 15 workforce partners here in the Mississippi Valley, ranging from that unemployment compensation, but also supporting reentry for individuals who've been incarcerated, adult education and literacy services for individuals with disabilities, and the adult dislocated worker and youth programs, which are provided through that procured service provider. And those are the ones that we're really going to dive into just a little bit more here. So who do we serve through the Iowa Work Centers? We serve individuals with barriers to employment, including those dislocated workers who've been impacted by layoffs, individuals who receive public assistance, veterans and their spouses, youth and justice-involved individuals, or really just anybody looking for some support gaining employment. So some of the job seeker services that we provide through the Iowa Work Centers include job readiness activities, developing an individualized employment plan where they can set goals and objectives and action steps to achieve those goals, work-based learning programs, financial support services, tuition assistance, career planning, English language acquisition and other adult literacy classes, disability services, and then some labor market information and really just career research. Specifically for youth, there are some additional supports for that program, including tutoring and dropout prevention, leadership development, financial literacy, follow-up services, and incentives and stipends as they make progress towards their goals through completing a work-based learning or gaining a credential of some sort. Now, on the other side, we also serve businesses and ensure that employers have a voice in our local workforce area as well. So some of the business services that are provided through the Iowa Work Center are job postings on the Iowa Works website, completing business needs assessments with our business service consultants, recruitment and training assistance through job fairs, again, labor market information, rapid response and layoff aversion, disability awareness training or other training, convening those sector partnerships, and coming up with industry solutions. And then lastly, we have a grant for businesses to upskill their employees as well. So some of the job seeker services provided through the Iowa Work Center by county. You can see Muscatine County makes up about 10% of our local workforce area's population and receive just under 8% of the total services through the Iowa Work Center, for a total of about 11,548 services. And one of the specific highlights that we wanted to bring out was a recent partnership with the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry to host a career fair. We partnered with them the past 2 summers, so that's been a great opportunity for us. And I will hand it over to Mandy.
Good morning. I'm going to cover exactly what our board's impact has been with the programs that we focus on, which is that adult dislocated worker and youth program. Moving my slides for me. We've had a $5.4 million impact in our local workforce area on the wages that are being brought into our local communities from people who are coming out of our programs. We have a 94.92% customer satisfaction rate of those that we serve. In this last program year, we served 142 youth, 153 businesses, and 198 adults. We had 71 youth enter into employment. We had 72 adults enter into employment, with 52 youth receiving some sort of credential and 47 adults receiving an additional credential. We were able to award the Retrain and Retain grant to 8 employers at 84 employees. We provided 616 services to businesses and 2,846 services to job seekers or participants. The board's investments, as you can see by this chart, the highest investment we make is into work-based learning, and then it is followed by support services. These might be helping someone with mileage to get back and forth to their course, or fixing a tire on their car tire and they don't have the funds to pay for it. It might be helping someone cover a bill for their rent or their electric bill. Those are support services that we offer. We offer help with childcare if they need it. Client incentives and awards is the next highest. That's those people who have reached different milestones. Those are only for youth, and that's an investment that we are proud to make in them in keeping them motivated. The board's programs, again, is adult, youth, and dislocated workers. In Muscatine County, we have 2.25% of the total services that have been provided in the area, which is helping 17 people and 75 services. Out of 10%, we would like to see that number go much higher. We are held to federal performance requirements, so we monitor people who have exited the program for a whole year. We want to make sure they're employed during that second quarter after they've exited, and then still employed the fourth quarter after they've exited. We monitor their median earnings for performance the second quarter after they exit, and then those who have successfully completed a credentialing program. Those are our current performance measures. These are our numbers from last year. The board has a new initiative that has been pushed out. We are continually pushing it and ask for your help in pushing it out even more. It is called Skill at Mississippi Valley. This is what the register page looks like at this time. We have Skill at Mississippi Valley is a partnership with Metrics Learning. There are over 7,000 online courses and 130 industry recognized certifications. 1,000 of those courses are offered in Spanish and Chinese, and they are free to all residents in our 8 counties. They're free because the board was able to leverage some funding that was non-WIOA funding with the help of Walmart, the Des Moines County Community Foundation grant, and Grow Clinton's contribution. We are able to make this have no eligibility. Everyone in our 8 counties can take it, and employers can use it to upskill their current employees and work staff. It can be used by the counties and the cities to provide additional training to their employees at no cost. If you want to set that up, you just have to contact me. We've provided some additional resources. That is our Workforce Board's website. There's the registration link for Skill at Mississippi Valley, and we would love for you to sign up for our quarterly newsletter where we push out the events that are happening in the workforce area and provide any answers to questions you might have at this point.
Do we have any questions for? So the Skill Up, that's an online portal that a business or individual that's interested could go out and sign up and register?
Yes, it is an online portal. It is easy to access, and the Musser Public Library has it on their webpage under digital content, and then I believe it's research and databases. It's listed as Metrics Learning on there. That is our Skill Up platform.
What about other individuals that are interested in any services you might offer? Where all, like in our local area, could they access those?
So if someone is seeking job seeker services or they've recently been affected by a layoff, they can reach out to the IOWorks Center in Davenport, and then we would connect them with the appropriate program that, would best fit their needs. And depending on the program, if it was one of our programs, we definitely could have somebody go to Muscatine County to assist them with whatever services they needed to get signed up for.
We do have a self-referral form on our website if someone is seeking services that they can complete, and then we would make a connection with that person and the person that can help them.
So the public library on their computers, somebody could go in there and access all these resources of your website, and that would be available at any of our public libraries in the county. Fair statement?
I know this.
Yeah, sorry, Marina. Yeah, then you can access any of it from there in Muscatine County.
Okay. Any other questions for Miranda or her team? Thank you for the update.
All right, thanks for having us today.
Okay. So next on our agenda is a presentation regarding EMS funding with the Director of Emergency Management, Chris Jasper, and EMS Association President, Tom Summit. I believe Tom is going to start us off this morning. Morning, Tom.
Good morning. Muscatine County EMS has been around for about 40 years in Muscatine. Originally was started by Tom Kerr, and then Paul Satherwaite took over for a time being, and then I took over. So it's an organization that is represented by all the EMS agencies around or in Muscatine County. In 2021, Bobby Kaufman actually began working for Essential Services in the state of Iowa for us. So basically, Senate File 615 provides information on making ambulance services an essential service. Right now, fire is essential, police is essential, but ambulance is not. And so Muscatine County about a year ago began working with, actually Jeff is on our board, Dr. Atwell is on our board, and then we have Wilton, Muscatine Fire, West Liberty, many members that we meet monthly to try to come up with how to make essential services work in Muscatine County. Wilton came and did a quick presentation a little earlier. So we had worked on this and we were planning on doing something later this year, but now's the time to do it. So we just wanted to kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at, what we're working forward to bring Muscatine County EMS Association with the services that we provide up front and for possible county funding down the road. Chris?
Good morning. So as Tom said, the County EMS Association has been meeting for well over a year to see what this essential service is going to look, what it potentially could look like here in Muscatine County. And so we do have representatives today from Muscatine, West Liberty, and Wilton. If you should have any questions for them in particular to their ambulance response or so forth. So to start this off, one of the things that we looked at is what are our current gaps or our current situation. And so the first thing that we found needed some attention was the average response time to rural county areas in Muscatine County currently. And again, this is for 2023 data. We wanted to look at a whole year. So the average response time was 16 minutes and 6 seconds for an ambulance to get to a patient in rural Muscatine County. The next alarming thing that we found was that 72% of ambulance calls did not fall within a first responder district or a first responder area. So they don't have the neighbors coming out with their AED and pack before the ambulance gets there to assist, since that call time is extended. And I'll show you a map here in just a minute of the first responder areas. Then the other thing that we kind of determined was that funding kind of is all over the place. There's some townships that pay in for fire service. The fire service then pays to the ambulance service, and there's kind of the township trustees are paying in, and kind of money's going everywhere, to be blunt. So again, we looked at what potentially this is going to look like in the future for us here, should we move forward with this essential service. And then, of course, lastly is the lack of volunteers to meet the increased demand in EMS services throughout the county. So with that, if you go to the next one, Chrissy. So this is the map of the first responder areas within the county. So as you can see, any of the purple areas are areas that there are first responders. So there's a significant portion within Muscatine County that's not covered by first responders. And what we found was that there's lots of folks that live in the county in these areas, paramedics, EMTs, first responders, and even nurses, that are interested in helping, but because they don't fall within one of these districts, they're not able to help. So our discussions are, how can we fix that? How can we get these people involved, that if one of their neighbors collapses and needs CPR and they're next door, they can go help. So further, we'll talk, one of the things that we've discussed is kind of eliminating these districts and creating a countywide first responder network. If you go to the next one, Christy, this is just a map of the ambulance districts that we threw in there, just in case you weren't familiar with where those lines were. So as you can see, West Liberty, Wilton, Durant. Medic of Scott County does cover a portion of their county. I've had conversations with their new director. They have no intent of pulling out from Muscatine County. They intend to keep covering that area. So even though they're funded by Scott County, they still want to service those areas that have no intentions of changing that. Next one, Chrissy. So again, this is kind of where we want to go with this. So we've identified these gaps, and now how are we going to maintain our ambulance services? Again, we talked about one of our goals is to create a countywide first responder organization. There's a program out called Pulse Point, which is a geolocated app that you would put on your phone, and if you're within, I think you can change the settings, but if you're within 5 miles of an ambulance call, you're going to get that on that app on your phone, and if you're available, you can respond. So again, eliminating those districts within the county, and if you're a first responder, you're a first responder and you can respond anywhere in the county. For instance, I use myself as an example. I'm still a certified EMT. If I'm in Conesville, for instance, working on maybe our radio tower site and somebody 2 houses down from the tower collapses, why should I not be able to go assist that person before the ambulance gets there? So this would kind of eliminate all that and create a countywide first responder organization. Again, it would create that pool of first responders that maybe potentially if they become a first responder, maybe they're interested in it then, and they want to go on to become an EMT or paramedic and potentially provide long-term job opportunities for these ambulance services after they get involved. And then of course, supplement the first responders and ambulance services by providing fiscal resources for them to keep operating and keep transporting folks and be staffed. So those are kind of the things that we found and where we want to go. I'm going to turn it over to Sandy from West Liberty, who's going to talk about the legislation and how we get there.
Good morning. So basically, it was in 2022, I believe.
Sandy, could you pull that microphone? Sometimes people at home have trouble hearing.
That's
so.
all right.
Thank
So
you,
in
Sandy.
2022, the governor signed where we could go for EMS essential services countywide type legislation. We've, like I said, we've been meeting for over a year discussing this. We have a unique situation here because of the city of Muscatine has a paid service right now. We've been looking at different ways. There's 2 ways that you can go for the funding, one being the countywide service, the other one being EMS service districts. With Muscatine already having good organizations set up, it would be really hard to go for the countywide because the people of Muscatine are already paying for their service. So we've been talking about creating a group, an agency outside of the city of Muscatine. Obviously, Muscatine Fire would be involved because they do serve some of the rural citizens of Muscatine County, so they would be involved also. So the other route that you can go is what they call the EMS service district. It falls under 357F for the rural, 357G for the city. Basically, we would have to go out and present, and again, we're working on that presentation, so we're not ready at this point to move forward on that. But we'd have to get 25% of the property tax or property owners within the county in that area, obviously Muscatine being excluded, have to get them to say that they want to hear about this and they want to vote on it. And then we would take it to all the rural citizens, again, excluding Muscatine, the city proper, and we would have to have a 60% majority vote that they want to do this. What this allows us to do is to ask for up to, initially, you can ask for $1 per thousand of property, not including agricultural and not including, obviously, your railroads, parks, that kind of stuff. Those are excluded in that. But you can ask for up to $1 per thousand of property tax value on that. Like I said, we're a long ways before we're ever going to get to that point because we're still working on setting up the system itself. We would have to create a board in the event that that happens so that they're responsible for keeping track of the expenditures and that kind of stuff, and obviously Muscatine would control the funding. So that board would decide how that money is split. We would want the ambulance service to continue with the ground emergency medical transport. That's federal money that we can get through the state that covers the gaps between Medicare and Medicaid on the ambulance bills, because that amount of money that we would get reimbursed from those is really small, and with the GEMT, we can get more reimbursement on that. We want to have money for training. We want to have money for training on that. Our initial goal is to have at least one person staffed on each of those ambulances 24/7, 365. Obviously, the ultimate goal would be able to have two. Our main thing that we need to be concerned with is maintaining that first responder group. Like Chris talked about, sometimes, obviously, once we staff the ambulances so that they're ready to go out the door, it won't be an issue. But right now, we depend on those first responders to provide life-saving care to those people till the ambulance can get on scene. So building up that first responder network is going to be very important to us, and that's going to require some funding to build it up and to keep that. I guess I'm at the last slide now. First responders would then have access to 43,000 residents, again, in the rural area. It would reduce the critical ambulance transport times because, like I said, they get there and they can provide life-saving care until that ambulance gets there to continue care and transport. We want to have a fully staffed EMS system going down the road. We'd like to have, at least a EMT and a driver in each ambulance ready to go out the door when the call kicks out to provide life-saving care to the citizens of rural Muscatine County. And again, we want to make sure that our responders have money to get the training. That's a lot of people don't take the training, don't want to do this job because they have to pay for it out of their pocket. And it's a lot of money. It's not cheap. You're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for just a basic person who can be on an ambulance. So it's a lot of expense and a lot of continuing education. We're open for questions. Any of us, if anybody has any questions.
Maybe you could elaborate a little bit. One of the things that was kind of interesting to me, and I don't think I fully understand it yet, is a little bit this first responder and your ability to be a first responder to a call, depending on where you live in the district. I don't understand that completely. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit, or...
Well, like Chris was talking about with the pulse point, Johnson County currently uses Pulse Point for medical calls, so I'm a first responder on West Branch, and because of that, I'm on that link. If there is a cardiac arrest call and my phone says that I'm within a certain distance of that cardiac arrest call, it will set off a tone on my phone and say that there's a cardiac arrest at this location, and if I'm available, then I can go to that call and try to help until the ambulance gets there. So that's kind of the general premise behind it. So if I'm headed to Muscatine in the vehicle for this meeting and I have this first responder equipment that we would have in my vehicle, and something kicks out like there's a cardiac arrest or a real bad trauma patient or something like that, kind of your higher priority dispatch calls, it would set off a tone on my phone. And if I'm close to that, I can go help that person until the ambulance gets there. So we kind of want to pull all of our resources so that all of our first responders and ambulance people within Muscatine County have that availability. So if they're driving somewhere and they're close to a call, they can get there quicker to provide care until, the first responder service gets there, if there is one for that particular area, or the ambulance gets there.
When you get that response to your phone, let's say there's several people in the area, do you have to respond that you're going to go to that that incident?
I don't know whether Pulse Point has a response on it, but I'd have to, I guess I've never used.
I'd have to look at that. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to look if they have a response.
You might have 7 guys or
Right.
people show up, but maybe that isn't a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing.
16 minutes for an ambulance, I mean, they're gonna tire out quickly, so, like Sandy was saying, so for instance, like if we have a medical call here at 31st and Independence, and you're waiting for Muscatine to come out here with the ambulance, that's quite a drive time. So if there's a neighbor down the road that's an EMT or trained as a first responder, and they can drive to their neighbor's house to start CPR before the ambulance gets there, that's kind of the way we're getting, if that makes sense. Or even anywhere in these areas where there isn't perfect, there's no first responders right now.
Your ultimate goal is to get help to people within 4 to 6 minutes. I mean, like you are when you're in the city itself, they're gonna get care really, really quick. And the ultimate goal is for all the citizens within Muscatine County to have that same availability, the quick response people.
You said 4 to 6 minutes? That's
Well,
the kind of the time?
On your cardiac arrest patients and people who are bleeding bad can bleed to death very, very quickly. And, 2 minutes they could bleed to death. So the 16-minute ambulance time isn't gonna do those people any good. And a cardiac arrest where it takes 16 minutes for an ambulance to get there if nobody's doing CPR, but EMD, the dispatchers can give instructions to family members or bystanders to do CPR till we get there. But again, you're relying on the public and asking them to do this, and some of them are not willing. So those response times, we try as hard as we can to get out the door as quick as we can, and some of those response times are smaller, some of them are longer, so that's why it balances out.
I just kind of, to answer your question too, sir, everybody where you see the purple on the map, those are the districts. So outside the purple, the people that are outside those districts can't even be on the organization as a first responder. So that's part of the issue right now, because we can't recruit or retain those people, and there's paramedics, nurses, off-duty officers, and different people throughout that area that's not in purple that we can now utilize. Like, for example, myself, I'm a paramedic here with the city of Muscatine. I live in the county in Fairway Oaks. Just a couple months ago, we had a gentleman die that was probably a minute and a half from my house. And if we would have had this first responder network in place and I would have gotten this pulse point, I would have responded from my home a minute away, where the city of Muscatine ambulance, it's 7 minutes to get there. And that's your first responder service, because we don't have any first responder service. So the overall goal is to make the entire county purple. And then we would have all of those first responders, nurses, farmers that are working, their neighbor down the street's having a problem, and now they can respond and help their neighbor out. Where in rural, we don't have that set up right now, so it's really not a good EMS system, and this funding would allow for that to happen, and it's gonna save lives. And that's the ultimate goal, is we want everybody to be able to have good community health care, and that starts at the foundation of EMS care, you know, and then it goes up to our hospitals and all of our other care that we need in our community to help maintain a healthy population.
Like it.
I just want to give you a quick real life example. So at the beginning of this year, I was actually covering in dispatch, and we took a 911 call from a gentleman outside of Stockton, actually from his wife, who was experiencing a cardiac issue. And we dispatched the appropriate ambulance service. After 10 minutes, they told us they didn't have a crew available, so we went to the next closest ambulance service. After 10 minutes, they told us they didn't have a crew available. It was actually 38 minutes, almost 39 minutes before an ambulance got to that gentleman out in the county. So again, that's in one of those areas where there's no first responders, whereas if there was somebody that was a first responder that could respond and provide aid until that ambulance got there, it's a real life situation that happened. 38 minutes when he was experiencing a heart attack before an ambulance got to him.
Okay. Other questions for the group? Well, I appreciate all the effort that you've put in on this and coming to us today and trying to help educate the group. I think there's a lot of work been done, there's a lot of work to be done, but I like the direction that you're going. I mean, I think, you know, as in my time on this, I think there's probably some legislative things that will probably come out of this that they may be asking some of us for help with. I think cities and the county board, with our influence to legislators to facilitate some of this, to make getting volunteers easier and doing some common sense things out there.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Jeff, for sitting in on our meetings.
No problem.
Jeff's been sitting in our meetings and providing a lot of good
Sure,
input.
Mayor, if you'd like, yeah, please, if you'd, Mayor Smith, would like to.
Mark Smith, Mayor of West Liberty. Again, thanks for the efforts in this regard. I wanted to emphasize that the City of West Liberty, or we support the work of the Emergency Services Association, the work that's being done on this. We think that this has a lot of potential for our area. This last week, a sample 28E agreement came to the staff of our emergency services, and I got it from the emergency services. As Mayor of West Liberty, it's not something that I was involved in the conception of, the development of, the rolling out of in any way, shape, or form. We think that that is ahead of the game on what needs to be done. So I have issues with how this was released, the timing of it in terms of what we're working on in West Liberty and resolving issues with delivery of these services, and also where this puts the Board of Supervisors. You all have to make decisions, and we have to be able to move forward as an association with that. So this is not an easy process for us to carry out. The last part of it is that I had major concerns with the content of that document as well. So with that, we'll continue to support the work of the association.
Yeah, I think that everybody's trying to do the right thing here, and I think, I don't know, I think the city of Wilton, maybe the city administrator put forth some thoughts on how he would see it, and again, I think if you haven't been involved with this group for the last year and a half, you might not understand how can you fund, because one of the things that has happened and is happening at a pretty rapid pace around us, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Louisa County passed a referendum for EMS as essential services as a county as a whole.
Yes.
It was done in Cedar County as well, and that kind of challenges these ambulance districts because they don't adhere to county borders necessarily. I know Wilton has a large area, and it's a question to us, even if you do this 357, how you do, what the the process of the election is and who votes and how do they vote. And then there'll be a tremendous effort by all of us on public education. This is gonna be nobody, you know, when you go out and people perceive a tax increase, you will get pushback on all levels, even for critical things like this. And so I think that our ability to kind of communicate this and share with the public that this is really a good thing is very important. They're paying for some of this today, you know, you townships are funding it, you know, that's why it's a little bit of a challenge. You know, you've got cities that are doing some funding, you've got townships that are doing the funding. County really is not involved. I mean, our EMS, Tom does some stuff and work, and we get some grant funding, and you distribute some training dollars and things like that. So all of that has to kind of be pulled in under an umbrella, and it'll be a bit of work, I think. But I'm pleased at the group. We've had great involvement, and I even say the city of Muscatine and Gary has done a great job and been in pretty much all the meetings I've been in and trying to help figure out what the right way forward for this whole process is. I'm confident we'll get it done. Dave?
Just for a quick second, 2080 that was put out was only a draft. It was not meant to be put out. It was shared with the EMS Association. I'm not 100% sure how it got out as far as it did. It was, this is what it could look like. It was never meant to be processed. It was never meant to be, this is what we're going to do. It was only a draft meant to say, hey, this is what a 2080 could look like. It was never meant to be shared with anybody. It was never meant to be any sort of official document. It was just a draft of what it could look like. So, just kind of want to make that known.
Well, I for one, because I understand that attorneys don't work for nothing, I appreciate the fact that they even had somebody start with a straw man of what a 2080 might look like, that would be multiple jurisdictions and all of that, because I think as Jim will attest, we've been through a few of these at a county level when you have multiple organizations, and they are not easy to get done because there's a lot of little details you have to put in them. So I think that's all good, and I think we can work. You know, I'm very optimistic with where this group's at and where they're going, but I think it's great that they've taken the time to put this together, very informative, and hopefully the rest of the board is coming up to speed on what we may be faced with here in the future. Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you everyone for your time this morning, appreciate it.
Thank you. That's fine, I appreciate it.
Okay, item number 8, we have items with Conservation Director Katie Hammond.
I think you skipped 7.
Did I skip 7? Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. I had 6, okay. Item 7, sorry, Katie. Items with Planning and Zoning Administrator Eric Furness. 7A is discussion of possible action to affirm a change order 3 in the amount of $3951.52 for the courthouse roofing project. Morning, Eric.
Last week I had to approve a change order. There was no meeting, as you know, due to the Labor Day holiday. Just Friday afternoon preceding Labor Day, I was made aware of some issues that Renaissance uncovered with the structural member that really is just a support for the copper cupola on the very top of the clock tower roof. The cupola was made of multiple pre-tinned and bent copper sections and wrapped around this small steel I-beam arch configuration, and it's been there a very long time. They carefully removed the cupola in sections to take back to their shop to refabricate the new one as part of the original contract. When they did that, they found that the steel inner skeleton, really, it's not really structural because it just provides something for the cupola to sit down over the top of. Had no wood in it. The cupola had just been affixed, bent back to itself. There was a few anchor points, but where the copper over the years had touched the steel structural member, there had been they described it as a galvanic reaction. Some of the steel in those minimal contact points had actually started to corrode and deteriorate. Not to the point where there's any structural concerns, again, because it's not a weight-bearing structural member, it's just an inner support skeleton for the cupola. So they made us aware of this as they're as they're working on recreating the new one and doing all the work in the next 4 to 6 weeks on this clock tower, that they were proposing a wooden structure fastened to that steel skeleton to give them multiple additional connection points for the new cupola when it's finished to be placed on there. It would avoid any contact between copper and the steel. Also, it'll allow it to be much more snug and allow them to install proper dry-in and waterproofing for the long haul. Ran it by Mike, and we think it's a very good idea to do this long-term, because then we will not have steel touching copper, we'll have better waterproofing, and there'll be no, really no way that it can move. When I looked at one of the sections they brought back down here, you could see where there'd been, you know, when the wind blows, there'd been a little bit of rubbing in some of the areas where it touched, and you could start to see daylight through the cupola, which obviously isn't a good thing. So they submitted a change order in that amount, $39.51 and 52 cents, in order to keep them moving on this, because they are rapidly doing work on the actual clock tower roof. I approved that and just wanted you to affirm that. I think it needs done. Mike agreed with it. It's very labor intensive to get everything to very tip top of that structure up there. Everything has to be hauled up by hand, fitted up there, and so I mean it's not a ton of work. I looked at the prices on the linear foot boards. I think they're appropriate. Mike agreed, so I did approve that.
Have a motion by Danny,
Second.
second by Nathan. Any further discussion? Eric did call me and make me aware of the issue, and I said I think that they've gone through the prudent steps and it's made the right decision. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Anything else, Eric?
Just an update, Nancy and I will be meeting with Mike to go over some of the other pending issues, like the masonry work that still needs done. We've got a couple of options, a couple different contractors that we can look at those figures and talk about our moving forward on that thing. But again, so far I'm very pleased with the work that they're doing up there. It looks very good. It's just, there's a lot of different parts up there and a lot of little unknowns that we keep finding, but overall, they're doing a very good job, I think, in their craftsmanship and materials, so.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Eric. All right, now items with Conservation Director Katie Hammond.
All right, thank
Discussion
you.
possible action to approve a proposal from the Winona Controls in the amount of $24,950 to upgrade the HVAC system at the Environmental Learning Center.
Yep, so this, our geothermal system has not been working for quite some time. I know not since I've been there. And so we've kind of patched up a few things that we needed to do. The system that we currently have is really old. It runs on a version of Windows 7 that we don't have anymore. And so we aren't able to really control what's going on in there. So it's been pretty hot and pretty humid throughout the summer. We fixed a few things that were kind of really urgent that had to be done immediately because it was running heat and things like that. And so this would get us up to where we need to be with a current system. It'd be all Windows based. It'll get we have an air handler that brings in fresh air from the outside. That hasn't been working for several years, so it would get that operational and include training so that all of our staff knows how to work it and all of that stuff, so.
Is this the same group that does our other geothermal controls? So
It
that
is.
Oscar and everybody would be aware of and how it works, and
Yes.
it's kind of more in line with what the county does?
Yes, we were hoping to work with the same contractor so that we could have everything kind of together in the county and would match, and like you said, Oscar can help with
Consistent
it.
parts, I mean, that's one of the challenges, when you do public bids on lots of things, you get quite a variety of controls and different equipment. If you don't specify it up front, I think we're probably getting better about that, and then you wind up with maintenance nightmares for the long term. So. I think we experienced that, I think, earlier this summer when we were out there and you had the trash can under the air handler picking up drips, and it was running opposite of what it should have been doing, and so we know that there's a challenge in that facility.
I'd move on that, Jeff.
Okay, a motion by Danny,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Did you have a chance to look at the annual reports that I gave you last time?
I did.
Yeah, any questions or?
Very good. I
Good.
don't recall any specific questions off the top of my head.
Everything else is, I think, going well. Where the campground project at Deep Lakes is still moving along. We've got meetings set up every Wednesday that we're gonna be meeting kind of via Zoom to make sure that process is moving forward. So we should be on track to, complete that project and have bids secured by the end of December, so.
So we'll have all of our, we'll be under contract by December, we have to be, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, discussion possible action to approve the minutes of the August 26, 2024 regular meeting. I have a motion by Nathan.
Second.
Second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Correspondence, Scott?
I only had one correspondence from a resident that, had a discussion about an intersection. And he was, this particular intersection, is such that it was a dead end that came to the main road from the east and the west. And there again, talking about, traffic not maybe paying attention to what they were doing and where they were going, and not, realizing that maybe they need to be more aware coming into an unmarked intersection. And I said it's most cases it's a simple fact of distracted driving, and I said drivers, they just need to do a better job on their own behalf. Because I told him, I said he wanted a stop sign put there, and I said, if you think that person's going to see that stop sign and they can't see your pickup, I said I don't think that's going to end up being a favorable situation. I said, it just needs to be more education for the driving public is what it needs to be, and being aware and thinking about what you're doing. So that's the only thing I had.
Nathan?
I did not have anything.
I had a couple ways, I'll put them as correspondence, so for whatever reason, I've agreed to participate with the city on their steering committee for their comprehensive plan. They're going through their comprehensive plan much like we are. So on the 4th and the 5th, I had meetings related to that. And then I did get a call from a concerned landowner on the Trolley Bridge project. I spoke with Brian about that. He was concerned about his ability to get equipment out of the farm area to other properties. I assured him that the county has spoken with the contractor on that. That is a normal course, is at part of our pre-construction meetings, that they're made aware that they need to maintain access as we've committed to the landowners in the process. So hopefully that will work, and they will get together with the contractor and work everything out. That's it.
That's it.
Dan?
I had a couple conversations with that Connie Fuller and email from Kelsey Bell. There was some,
We did get that, yeah.
I think we all got that email, but,
I didn't see one.
there was still some concerns with Connie accessing the cemetery up there off of Old Burlington Road. I don't know how to move forward on that. I think that the current ordinance that we have in place, I'm not sure she has access. She has some physical problems to get up there, so I don't know if that'll go anywhere more.
Well, I think
we'll
when
see.
we put an ordinance in place that
The ordinance
complies
is in
with
place,
state
I
law,
think.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the landowner is complying with state
It
laws.
sounds like it, yes.
That's about all we can do, I think.
And I had a call from Chad Healy. He said that there was some tall weeds on the intersection of 41st and Stewart Road. I spoke to Brian about that. I don't know if I haven't been over there to look at it, so I don't know if that was a concern or not, but he was gonna check it out.
Heard?
None to speak of.
All right, how about committee reports?
No, had none.
Danny, committee?
9/28 full board meeting for Chamber of Commerce, and also on the 28th, Finance Committee, Mississippi Valley Workforce Development. That's it.
All right, well, I was out a bit, so I had on the 18th, I had the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region So just to keep everybody aware, so the RFP for these ASOs, which is, I don't even know what that stands for, went out, came out September 9th, was it, Nancy? I think we saw it. At the last board meeting, May, and I can't remember her last name, I apologize to May. She's currently the CEO for the East Central region, which if you look at the Eastern Iowa region, our 5 counties, and then the East Central region was like 9 counties. Well, 6 of their counties and us are going together to make a group. If you look at the state finally released the mental health regions, our region is quite large. We're a little over.
We'll go into districts. That's the new-
Districts,
yeah.
mental health and behavioral health districts, and substance abuse, I think is getting
Yep.
wrapped into, I think that was a question Nathan had. So there are gonna be,
I think it's 17.
yeah, and we're like a little over 1 million people in our district, 14 counties. I think the next closest size district is, it encapsulates Polk, and there may be 500,000, so we're a pretty large district. It'll be interesting. There's a schedule for I'm scheduled for a meeting with the Central Region and our board on the 26th. We'll see what happens. But anyway, May and Lori came to the board and said that they would like to put together a proposal to respond to this RFP. The board, I guess, tentatively agreed to it, just that they can go ahead and put thoughts together. We're gonna meet with that region, so I'm guessing October will be an interesting meeting if we have a proposal or not, whether we respond to that RFP as a entity. I'll talk to you about it once I learn a little bit more, but I saw the RFP. I can send it to you all if you wanna read it. It's about 60 pages, and I think it's way outside the scope of what we wanna be involved in, personal opinion, but that's all I had.
I didn't have anything, but based on my brief review of that, I would agree with Jeff as to what he just said.
And I have no committee reports.
Okay, items with the administration office. Item A is discussion possible action approve resolution 0909-2401, taking action to set a public hearing on a proposal to repurpose bond proceeds. I'm in a little trouble with that this morning.
So
Have a motion by Nathan.
Second.
And a second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor, signify.
This is a roll call.
Roll.
Oh, I'm
roll.
sorry, yeah, all right. This is a roll call vote, okay. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing. Okay, item B is discussion of possible action to approve appointment of Laura Curtis Kramer to the Muscatine County Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term ending June 30, 2030.
I'll move.
A motion by Danny,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I appreciate Laura's willingness to serve. Item C, discussion of possible action to select a department head to serve on a grievance review board in accordance with the Muscatine County Handbook. I think you all got some information. Nancy, did you want to discuss the process or?
And we're just following the process in our handbook. We had an employee who filed a grievance. The department responded to that grievance. They're requesting to move on to the next step, which is a grievance review board. You guys appoint a department head. The employee selects someone to serve on that board, and then that department head and employee pick a third person. If they're not able to, then it comes back to the board and you guys determine who that third person is gonna be. That grievance review board holds an informal hearing, and then issues a decision. If the employee is still unhappy with what that decision is, then the board can decide to have a hearing of your own and hear it as well.
I got one question. On the outcome, when this goes through the grievance process, when the outcome is finished, if we win or lose, or they win or lose, there's no prize. I mean, what do you win?
I agree, there's no
There's
prize.
no prize, it's a big waste of time because, and I know we can't, it's out of our control, but it's a big waste of time because whether there's a winner or a loser at the end, there's you don't get a $50 bonus or anything, so,
No.
but we'll go through the process, but it's a waste of time.
I thought through this, I saw that this weekend, and I thought through, like, you know, we have had quite a bit of change in staff in the last year or two, so my recommendation would be we appoint Eric Furness. He's probably one of our longest tenured managers and understands our process and system, and I know he always enjoys a good opportunity.
I will second that.
Do we have his agreement to serve?
Yeah.
Or is there a staff recommendation?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What department does this deal with?
Jail.
Jail.
Okay, because I just, in full disclosure, the sheriff and I are related, I mean, through marriage, and so I don't want that to be an issue. If you don't think.
I'm confident that that will not affect your ability to serve on this board at all.
I wanted to, disclose that in case there was.
It's my understanding you guys don't like each other anyway, so.
I just like to be transparent.
Yeah. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. I think we have total confidence in your ability to be,
Objective.
fair, Eric. Nancy?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, next item is receive comments from county employees. Any county employees wishing to address the board on an issue?
So, here with Public Health Director Jen Kraft, and several months ago, the Emergency Management Commission and the Board of Health kind of partnered to create a emergency preparedness public health app that Public Health was able to get some funding.
That CARES app?
Through a grant, yes. So, this week, we're ready to launch the app. It's called Muscatine Cares, which is the Community Alerting Resource Emergency System. I had to think of what that was for a minute. So there's resources for how to create disaster plans on the emergency management side, to links to sign up for the Alert Iowa program. I'll let Jen talk about what's on the public health side.
So there's mental health resources, other community resources, public health resources, and that sort of thing as well. There's a really neat Friends walk map so it's a lot of increased safety. Then we can also send alerts out to anyone who has the app.
So we would just encourage board, anybody in the public, to download that app. It's on the iPhone and Google Play Store, and it will be an excellent resource. And I haven't gotten with Eric yet, but in the event that we have any environmental concerns or so forth with the flood, we can create banners to push out information and all that sort of stuff. So it's actually 3 departments kind of can have access to this. So thanks to Public Health for the grant money to do that.
Yeah, I actually downloaded the app and looked at it a little bit. I saw something you sent out to the board members or something and asked. And
Yeah, we can.
It's kind of a nice encapsulation of a lot of information and access, hopefully help people access resources that maybe not have other methods to do that. So I'd encourage everybody to just download it. I get off the Play Store, the App Store, or whatever it was, and pretty simple.
Then if you have any feedback on ways we can make it better or something we forgot left out, let either one of us know. I'll volunteer Chris or Nancy, and we can make those updates.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
I got
Yeah,
one
question.
I got one question. It's unrelated to that, but earlier you made the comment on that call out by Stockton, it took like 30-some minutes. I know a while back we had a conversation about, when some of those calls go out, that they go to the different departments at the same time so that there's not that delay. Is that something that you've implemented, so those things, until we get this other countywide services set up, that you can maybe get somebody there quicker?
So right now, our written countywide EMS agreement states that we page the appropriate ambulance. After 5 minutes, if we don't hear from them, we page them again, and then if we don't hear from them for an additional 5 minutes, we go to the next closest ambulance. So the EMS Association has had extensive conversations about changing that to looking for the next available service after 5 minutes instead of waiting the full 10. We just haven't finalized that written EMS agreement yet to do so.
Well, I think it kind of makes sense, and maybe I hope people agree that if you change that policy that the call goes out to those two ambulances services at the same time. And maybe it's a Conesville call, but Nichols goes out at the same time. Conesville finally responds, even if Nichols is mobilizing and they have to be turned around. I know it's volunteers, sometimes guys have to leave work and other things, that becomes a challenge, but that, like we talked earlier, that 5 or 10 minutes, I mean, these are crucial minutes, and instead of waiting to make that, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, maybe those should be made at the first time, because it's not that hard to, if Conesville finally responds, and they're the first ones that should be going, to cancel the second one, you know, and that way things are coming together maybe.
You're right, and we've had those conversations. The only holdup with that is that obviously we have to redo mutual aid agreements, we have to redo the EMS agreement. The EMS agreement then has to go to the state EMS district to approve. Like, it's quite a process. So we have started that. We're working towards that. It's just not done yet.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, this kind of like the direction where the group is going, because this kind of mirrors the governor has started, and I don't know what counties, they've started some trial programs where really, you know, this is where you have to kind of divorce your thinking a little bit between first responder and ambulance. You know, stabilize the victim or stabilize and then get help, you know, appropriate help. Because, you know, when you just look at the sheer numbers, and in reality, if you look at the unincorporated county of Muscatine County, you see we've lost a couple thousand residents in the last 10 years, with census to census. You saw that in our housing study. So people are moving more into town or, you know, closer to town. And it's getting more and more rural in our rural counties. And so if you're gonna if you want a 5-minute, you know, it's probably not gonna be economically feasible to staff. You know, we started throwing out numbers about staffing these ambulances, and, you know, Chris, you know, you looked at, you know, and Gary talked about how much staffing it takes. It's a pretty daunting task. And the cost of an ambulance, you're talking about a $750,000 asset. You know, how, you know, every ambulance, well, how, you know, how are you gonna fund that? So I think in reality, there's gonna be kind of a hybrid system out there, so I like the direction they're going. It'll
Like
be
we
really
talked about at
interesting to see.
the last meeting, there's all sorts of staffing models you can look at. You know, we talked about ALS versus BLS at the last meeting. So do they really need that paramedic care, or can an EMT care for them in the ambulance? And so we had discussed that only about 1/3 of the calls in the county are actually ALS where they need a paramedic. So maybe it would be better for us to have a paramedic staffed with a Suburban somewhere central in the county that can respond to a call if they need it, as opposed, and staffing EMTs in the ambulance, which would be a little cheaper. So there's all sorts of different models we can look at, and we are looking at to come up with what best fits us here in the county.
Yeah.
It's just a very lengthy process, and there's lots to look at with licensing and certifications and so forth. And so our point kind of here today was we're working on it, we're looking at it. It takes some time. We'll hopefully come up with the best suitable answer for us here in the county.
And hopefully things will, you know, they'll quit changing the rules and stuff, and we can kind of figure it out what we gotta do. But I also would say that the legislators have been pretty engaged. I know Bobby has said, you know, let me know what help you need from a legislative perspective. I'm willing to look at it and work on it. And Taylor and Mark have both said, you know, just tell us what help you need. This is a very important issue. We just need to know what you think you need to get it done. So I think that's kind of the big challenge now. Good. Thank you.
And while I'm here, I just have one more thing. Just want to give you a quick update on our transition to the ISIX radio system. So if you remember last year, the county took over the radio tower out at Wildcat Den. That's been completely redone, new propane tank, new generator, new HVAC system. That is all connected to the ISIX core. We've actually talked on it from that site. Hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days, we'll be transitioning over to ISIX. We had a delay with one of our tower sites hopefully they're gonna finish construction on that this week. So we are moving forward with that. Hopefully we'll get switched over here soon, and the tower that the county took possession of is up and running, and everything's smooth with it. So far.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Okay. Next item is receive comments from the public. Any members of the public wishing to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Seeing no one come forward, We're gonna take a brief recess. We'll come back at 10:30 and then we're gonna go into we'll go into a closed session. Stretch your legs.